Welcome to Raregivers 2023. I'm Crystal Barrett O'Loughlin, and it is World Mental Health Day. All around the world, various organizations such as Angel Aid are celebrating the fundamental human right to mental health and well-being. So we're going to talk to you a bit today about Angel Aid and the mental health relief that we bring our community. We're going to hear from an amazing expert, Dr. Alyssa Eppel from UCSF. She is a world-renowned health and wellness practitioner, researcher, stress response expert, and she's going to share her insights with us. And then we'll talk a little bit about some of the organizations and things that are happening around the world. But most importantly, we're going to invite you to support the work that we do here at Angel Aid. So let me go ahead and pull up our presentation today and we'll go from there. Angel Aid is a global nonprofit network. We provide personal connection and emotional support, starting with the heart, for patients, caregivers, and professionals in rare, chronic, and complex disease communities. Individuals in our community are feeling isolated, they're feeling overwhelmed. We bring daily, weekly, and quarterly relief so that they can have that feeling of compassion and being witnessed. That's where the relief comes from. It is our goal to support 3.5 million rare givers by 2026. That might seem like a very big goal, and it is. Certainly, technology plays a big part in achieving that goal, as do our many, many partnerships, and we will talk about those in a moment. Okay, what can you do? You're watching this broadcast because you have an interest. You have an interest in learning and possibly an interest in supporting those within the rare disease community. And we want you to know that your donations are making a difference. Angel Aid as an organization has been around since the year 2000. We were a fundraising organization for the first 17 years. And in the last 6 years, we've been focused on providing mental health and wellness services as a 501c3. So all of your donations are tax deductible. And when you make those donations, if you are inside the Microsoft network, if you are a Microsoft employee, we invite you to make those donations via Benevity in order to secure the matching grant. If you're outside of the Microsoft network or the Benevity network, we invite you to make donations at angelaidcares.org/give. And this is the donation guide. We're providing live mental health support calls. We're providing weekly support groups. We are bringing acute relief for fears, needle fear, needle phobia in our community because we have very medicalized lives. We're providing respite retreats. We're providing a full suite of services year in and year out. And in fact, we have rare mothers, rare fathers, and rare givers in our community that have now been to multiple wellness experiences thanks to your support. Our Archangel community is our community of sustainers, and those archangels are helping us make leapfrogs into growing the community because this is a global challenge. It's World Mental Health Day. So as we look around the world, here's the reality. There's a category of rare diseases, and I do call it a category. It's a set of diseases that are less than 50,000 patients worldwide. If you take that category of rare diseases and aggregate it, you've got more people on the planet suffering from rare diseases than AIDS and cancer combined. There are actually over 10,000 rare diseases that classify as rare, and that means a total of 350 million people, 1 in every 10 American families and 1 in 15 families worldwide. There are 0 cures for any of these rare diseases. And so it's what I call empathy math. If you have 350 million patients and caregivers and 0 cures, then you have a global mental health crisis. on your hands. And that's why we're focusing on this in Mental Health Day. In fact, it's not just the patient community that's suffering. 350 million patients on average have 1 to 3 caregivers in their lives that are also deeply emotionally impacted, and then up to 5 professionals in their support network that are also on this emotional journey with them. So, like I said, you have this very broad community of people that are suffering together. How do you bring relief into such a large global community? One of the ways is to recognize that we are not isolated in our distress, that we actually are part of a much broader set of sustainable development goals developed by the United Nations. And in fact, we align very beautifully with good health and well-being, the UN SDG goal number 3. It is a fundamental human right to not only have physical health, but also emotional well-being. So that's what Angel Aid is doing, is establishing those support services. And we're not doing it alone. In fact, Angel Aid runs a coalition called the Raregivers Coalition. And just earlier today, we were expanding our network from the Raregivers Coalition, predominantly in the United States, and talking with Eurotas in Europe. So Eurotas is also recognizing World Mental Health Day, flagging that the whole purpose of awareness is to mobilize our collective efforts to combine our networks. That's why we say Raregivers by Angel Aid is a network of networks. And we want to work in partnership with various communities, including the Eurotas community. And they presented some really beautiful data. So this is all Eurotas data. I want to give it full credit where it's due, but that there is proof out there that this is an unmet need. Okay. 90% of people living with rare diseases feel worried, anxious, stressed, and depressed. 90%. Okay. A third of the parents that are caring for children are also feeling mild to moderate depression and anxiety. 85% declared that rare disease impacts several areas of their lives, not just physical, but also mental health and everyday life. So this isn't isolated to just physical health, it's mental health as well. And that 3 times that community, 3 times families that are living with rare diseases, 3 times more than the average are feeling unhappy and depressed compared to the general population. 7 out of 10 patients and caregivers need to reduce or stop their professional activities in order to perform their support services in service to their disease management or in service to their caregiving responsibilities. And that can be very deeply emotionally impacting when you lose that part of your identity known around work. So thank you very much to the burden study that was conducted with the Eurotas Foundation. Really appreciate you sharing those details and just, flagging some of the stressors that come about. The diagnostic odyssey, it's not often easy to get a diagnosis. It can take 8 years on average to get an accurate diagnosis. And that it's very complex. These are not often independent experiences. There's comorbidities and co-diagnoses that are impacting the patients and therefore the caregivers and the professional community that are supporting those families. And there's a lot of living with uncertainty. And aren't we all so familiar with that because of the pandemic? And the stress and strain on relationships in particular is profound. There's this heightened, just acute sense of grief and loss. And it's so hard to be what you want to be, which is the best wife, the most loving mother, the most present father, the best brother or sister, uncle, grandparent you can be in the family life. And that can be really, really hard to do when there's so much uncertainty and so much stress around the future. And we know this. The Barrett family has experienced this firsthand. So I'm just going to take a moment, share with you in particular my parents. Richard and Phyllis Barrett. They met in high school. They married at 19. That was back in 1963. And they were intent on having a large family. So they had a basketball team of kids. That's my oldest brother, Richard, on the right, and then David, Jared, and Randy. And then I am the youngest of the five. What my mother didn't know, my parents didn't know, is that our family carried a recessive gene for a very rare disease, 3,000 patients worldwide, called mucopolysaccharidosis, or Hunter syndrome. And even though the children are born looking very typical, very and neurotypical as babies, over time they degenerate from the rare disease that that afflicts them. And my brothers passed away at 12, 18, and 19 years old. The stress of the whole family wrapped up in the caregiving for those three very, very sick individuals, my brothers, essentially broke apart my marriage, my parents' marriage, and set all of us on a series of recoveries, decades of recovery after their passing. Now, if you stick with me to the end of this broadcast, I'm going to give you a love story like you'll never believe. But in the meantime, just know that there can be great honoring in loss, and there can be really profound perspective and purpose that comes out of these experiences of suffering. In fact, I often say the purpose of suffering is to sow the seeds of empathy. It's not actually about your personal experience. It's about what happens with those individuals along the way. So it's a pay it forward mentality. And one of the things that we do at Angel Aid is we develop witnessing tools that will help us create space for empathy, tools that help people orient themselves in their emotions. And we've been leading a coalition of experts, over 50 organizations, over 140 individuals that have informed these wellness tools. And in particular, the Raregivers Emotional Journey Map is available publicly at raregivers.global. It can be downloaded. It can be used on an individual basis. There is a self-guided guidebook for individuals to work through their emotions through various different stages of any kind of medicalized experience. This is not a disease-specific tool. We have translated into Spanish, which is very exciting, and we hope to continue to translate into other languages. We do invite your support. That's what your donations and your support for Angel Aid goes towards, is these kinds of tools and these kinds of programs, witnessing programs. And in fact, we've been so gifted and so grateful to be able to partner with various different pharmaceutical companies, Horizon, Ionis, Sanofi, EMD Serono, PTC Therapeutics, Ultragenics, and Regenix Bio. So thank you to each of those industry partners that have recognized the importance of mental health and wellness. And then we also have quite a few patient organizations that we work with: the Ehlers-Danlos Society, Epilepsy Foundation of Australia, the SCN2A Organization of Australia, Remember the Girls, Indo-US Rare, the Assistance Fund, the Prader-Willi Foundation, and most recently NORD, the National Organization for Rare Diseases, who have been around for over 40 years and believe that our aggregated support model is just the way to go. So thank you for those organizations. And then a huge shout out to Microsoft, because without technology, we are not able to cross borders. We're not able to cross language barriers. And really, through the pandemic, we weren't even really able to staff fully what we needed to staff in the organization. So it was Microsoft employee volunteers that helped us launch our website, our mobile app, translate our support services, and so many other things. So thank you to this community of supporters, and a huge thank you to the many volunteers and donors who make our work possible. So what have we delivered with your funding? You've provided amazing funding over the years, and we invite you to continue to do the same. Because of your donations, we have grown from 7 women in our living room here at Barrett Family Ranch to over 15,000 patients and caregivers around the world that are receiving daily doses, daily informed and inspirational messages, either in social media or through our rather large MailChimp list, and those that have gone through our wellness training. We have a psychology and practitioner network of 22 health and wellness experts, and we've provided over 21,000 hours of wellness training. So thank you so much to each of those individuals, and thank you so much to each of the community members that have trusted us with delivering inspiration for well-being. In fact, due to donations just since last year, we've been able to launch our first Spanish retreat, our first epilepsy retreat, and our first men's retreat, all within 2023, thanks to the donations that we received last year. So that's just in the first half of this year, what we've been able to accomplish. Think what we could do with your support going forward. That's why we've developed this global festival of wellness, is to take all of these amazing learnings to feature the health and wellness practitioner networks, to feature our actual practitioners, and give you an opportunity as our community of donors, of volunteers and partners to experience what Angel Aid is doing day in and day out with our community. So if you go to angelaidcares.org/give, you actually can tune in every day live on YouTube between 12:15 and 12:45 Pacific Standard Time to our daily broadcasts of meditations, of fitness experiences. We're featuring various different authors and wellness experts, and we're featuring the community of caregivers that we support within the Raregivers community. There's also ways for you to donate within those experiences, and we invite you to do the same here. And just a reminder, if you're from the Microsoft community, please do make your donations at aka.ms/angelaid, and you'll get that match through Benevity. So really appreciate all of those donations. And so one of the things that we realize as Raregivers is that it's not a moment in time. This is not, we have had a traumatic experience and now we're in active recovery from that experience. This is what we call a chronic traumatic stress experience, CTSD versus PTSD. And no other stress expert really has impacted our community more than Dr. Alyssa Epple. She is a world-renowned, recognized stress expert. She's dedicated her career to talking about stress and measuring stress. In fact, this is Nobel Prize-winning research with her co-author, Elizabeth Blackburn. They've been able to measure the stress impact at a cellular level on our bodies through the measurement of telomeres. Telomeres are these little glow sticks at the end of our cells. When you're born, your telomeres are shining bright, and when you pass away on your last day on the planet, your telomeres dim to dark. And the good news about telomeres is that you can repair them. So if you've been under stress, all of these mindfulness, all of these health and wellness techniques that we've been talking about, those techniques can be implemented into your daily life and have been proven to increase your longevity, have been proven to increase your sense of well-being. And so when we talk about World Mental Health Day, what better person to talk about mental health and wellness than Dr. Alyssa Epple. She just recently wrote and published a book called The Stress Prescription: 7 Days to More Joy and Ease. So I'm here with Alyssa Epple, the preeminent stress expert from UCSF. My name's Crystal O'Loughlin from Angel Aid, and we're talking about stress, everyday stress, the stress that's all around us. Alyssa, can you elaborate, please, and help us find ways to reduce our stress?
Mm-hmm. I like to think of these kind of levels of stress that we have. So we all have the daily drama of things that happen in our personal life, and we will always have that. And nowadays we have this level of social and global stress that we never had before because we're hyper connected. So we see tragedies that happen anywhere in the world at any time, and they're more frequent. So we are in an era of what many have called the meta crisis. We have an unstable climate, so we have a lot of climate tragedies, climate disasters that are not just affecting the people that they are not. It's not just affecting people who are exposed to the disaster, but all of us see it and we realize how connected we are, and that this is our future, that we're going to have more climate events. And then there are other types of social stressors that we're exposed to, the social and political divisions, the unstable politics and war. So this can be overwhelming. And the more we watch media, actually the more PTSD and anxiety symptoms that we have, and even the more risk for heart disease. So the media is the medium of how it gets under our skin, and titrating that, protecting ourselves, acknowledging that there's too much out there that's filtered and intensified through the media. And we just can't be free game to be exposed to that. We need to protect our families, protect our workplace. So limiting our screen consumption is a way of managing our stress exposure. And the other way to manage it is to work together on the issues that you care about most. So climate distress is so common, particularly in our children these days, in young adults. And we can't get rid of it because it's a realistic stressor. We are needing to create massive changes. So the way to cope with it is action. Action is the sponge for anxiety. So local action is global action. Whatever we can do in our schools and at home and in our workplaces matters and adds up.
Fantastic, fantastic. Now, Alyssa just released a book. It's called The Stress Prescription, right here. So you heard it first from Alyssa Epple. Thank you so much,
Thank you,
Alyssa.
Crystal.
Really appreciate it.
Me too.
Okay, so we heard from Alyssa that action is the sponge for anxiety. And boy, have I been taking that to heart. I'm so honored to be able to do the work that we do, and I've learned so much from Dr. Epple. So thank you for that. And I do encourage you to check out the Stress Prescription, 7 Days to More Joy and Ease. And as an incentive for you to donate to Angel Aid, we're offering something amazing. Every donation receives a link to Dr. Alyssa Epple's 15-minute Insight Timer recording on the stress prescription. So everyone that makes a donation during Give Month will be receiving a thank you and a link to hear what are those 7 days? What can we do to bring more joy and ease into our life? And I think that that's a beautiful offering on World Mental Health Day. Would also like you to connect to continue learning with our Angel Aid community. So if you know anyone or you yourself are in deep emotional distress from caregiving, please do reach out, connect with us on social media, join one of our free weekly support groups. Definitely subscribe to our newsletter because we're constantly sending out tips and tricks and reminders for how to tap into just micro moments of every day of self-care. And if you're in the professional community and interested in furthering the work we do, we encourage you to join the Raregivers Coalition at raregivers.global. Okay, I promised you a beautiful end to this tragic tale. When Richard and Phyllis met in 1960s and married in 1963, they never could have envisioned what was coming their way in terms of losing 3 of 5 children and all of the different impacts that would have on their lives long term. They did divorce in 1975. They each remarried a second time, divorced again. They each remarried a third time. Those were long 20-year plus marriages, and they widowed within a year of each other, the same year that our daughter Chloe was born. Now, that beautiful birth, that amazing healthy baby, free of the bounds of a rare disease, is what brought our family back together. My parents were able to find the love and the forgiveness and the empathy in their own lives. And just in April of this year, we married them again, 60 years after the first time in 1963. So there's a love story for the ages. Again, we invite you to support our community, continue to engage in our month of giving. You can watch all of our sessions either live or recorded on YouTube. Just go to angelaidcares.org/give or youtube.com/@angelaidcares. Please do take the time to make a donation. We really do need your support. We're going to be growing from 15,000 families to 50,000 families this year, and we have to have the funding to sustain that support. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful World Mental Health Day.